That is section 13. Section 13 deals with the time of supply for services. In case of goods, we discussed forward charge, we discuss reverse charge, and we discuss voucher. Same way, we are going to discuss these three aspects in case of a time of supply of service. My dear friend, in case of a time of supply of service, the tax will be paid on the earliest of the following, as we discussed. And here, you will remember that in case of a goods, for forward charge, we discuss invoice or payment, whichever is earlier, was the original decision. But then they cut the payment, meaning thereby it was based on the invoice. But for the services, it is not the case. For the services, it is not the case. Meaning thereby that in case of services, just a second. In case of services, it will be the invoice or payment whichever is earlier. It will not be based on invoice. It will be the invoice or payment whichever is earlier. So let us learn. Let us see what is there in the law. So my dear friend, it is the earliest of the following. The date of issue of invoice by the supplier. If the invoice is issued within the time prescribed under section 31, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. Meaning thereby, the invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. And again, the invoice has to be issued within the provision of the section 31. Now, my dear friend, very, very importantly, you need to learn that under section 31, for goods, when we discussed, it was the delivery or removal of goods. You have to raise the invoice. But in case of services, it is within 30 days of services provided. Meaning thereby, if I provided this service on the 10th of August, I should raise the invoice on the 9th of September 2022, within 30 days. So the law says, section 31 says that I have to raise the invoice within 30 days. So the provision says the date of issue of invoice, meaning thereby 9th of August, 9th of September, or payment, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. My dear friend, please, very importantly, you have to learn that I supplied the service on the 10th of August. As per section 31, I have to raise the invoice within 30 days. In that case, A will be the 9th of September or payment. Payment, let us say payment received on the 16th of September. Okay, the A or B, whichever is earlier. But my dear friend, the law says further that if I not issued the invoice within 30 days, let us say I raise the invoice on the 19th of September. In that case, what will be the liability? It is 19th September or 16th September? The answer is no. In that case, it will be the date of services provided or date of payment, whichever is earlier will be the day. So in that case, it will not be A, it will become A. So if I will raise the invoice within the prescribed limit, then it is okay. But otherwise, the date of provision of service will become the A, meaning thereby the one of the date which will be discussed and analyzed to understand the time of supply. Now, my dear friend, this payment, I mentioned you the date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. As we discuss in the case of goods also, that when we are discussing about the date of payment, the date of payment will be again entered into the books of accounts or hit my account, hit my bank account, whichever is earlier. So as I discussed you, I issued the check on the 12th of August, date of check. I entered the transaction on the 15th of August, hit my 13th of August. So it will be the date of payment will be this one. The 30th of August will be the date when it will be treated as the date of payment received. So when I got the credit in my ledger, bank account, that will be the, it means credit in my bank account. So it will be the date of payment will be 13th of August or as we discussed. Now, my dear friend, somebody will ask me that, okay, where it is mentioned that you have to raise the invoice within 30 days. So just to share with you that we have to read the section 31 for the same, where it is being mentioned. Now, my dear friend, let us understand with the help of an example. Now, in this case, the date of issue of invoice is 15th of August. The service was provided on the 2nd of July. Now, whether I raise the invoice within 30 days? The answer is no. I should raise the invoice on the 2nd of August only or 1st of August. Meaning thereby this date is irrelevant for me. Now the date of provision of service will become A and the payment is B. So 2nd July or 10th of August, whichever is earlier, it will be the 2nd of July when the time of supply will accrue. In the second case also, the invoice was not issued within 30 days. So meaning thereby this date is irrelevant, it will become A and this will become B. Now, my dear friend, very interestingly, you need to learn that in this case, I am supposed to wait because based on the provision of service, normally I should have raised the invoice by 14th of August. So I will wait that, okay, I will raise the invoice by on the 14th of August. But before that, based on the date of payment, that is on the 23rd of July, I will thought that, okay, my time of supply will accrue on the 23rd of July. And based on that, I will pay the tax on the 28th of August. So my liability become due in the month of July only. So even if I defaulted on the 14th of August, my time of supply as per this provision will be 23rd of July. So it's a little tricky here. But in the another case, when I raise the invoice on the 15th of July, even prior to the provision of service, so it will not be my A. It will be A and this will be B. So A or B, whichever is earlier, it is the A. So 15th of July will be the time of supply. So my dear friend, in case of a forward charge, these will be the time of supply in this kind of a scenario, which is there before you. Now, my dear friend, coming to the reverse charge, that in case of a time of supply, how the reverse charge liability will be calculated. And again, it will be earlier of the following. I'm aware that all of you must be feeling little difficult to understand all these provision in a single go. So what I will do, I will not discuss today the valuation provision. Maybe if required, we will go with a one extra class, but let us understand slowly and gradually rather than we try to cover everything in a single class so that you will be able to comprehend the things in a proper manner. Or even we can have the 2 classes in a day if the time permits, maybe on Saturday. Now, my dear friend, coming to the reverse charge in relation to the time of supply. Now, my dear friend, in case of a reverse charge for the time of supply, the provision says the earlier of the following. Number one, the date of payment as entered in the books of accounts of the recipient or the date on which the payment is debited in the bank account, whichever is earlier. Again, I issued the check. Date of check is 12th, say 12th of August. It hit my bank, debited in my bank on the 13th of August. I entered into my books of accounts on the 15th of August. It is saying it will be the day earlier of the A or B. It is A, so it will be the first date, 13th of August. The second, the day immediately the following the 60 days from the date of issue of invoice. Meaning thereby, if the invoice pertains to, say, for example, 2nd of August, so it will be the 1st of October. Will be B. Okay. So this will be the A or B, whichever is earlier. A or B, whichever is earlier, will be the day when I have to pay the GST. So my dear friend, in this case, the date of payment entered into the books of accounts is 18th August, whereas it hit my bank account on the 15th. So this will not be A, this will be A. And immediately 60 days from the date of invoice is on the 5th of July. So it will be, so A or B, whichever is earlier, 15th of July. RCM liability will accrue on the 5th of July. Here in this case, my bank account hit on the 21st, books entered 22nd, so it is A, and this is B. A or B, whichever is earlier, A applicable, RCM is applicable on 21st of July. Similarly, bank account hit on 9th, A, it will not be, and this is B. A or B, whichever is earlier, B is earlier, RCM will be based on the B. That is on the 7th of August. So my dear friend, this is the way that you need to learn that how your liability to pay the GST under RCM for the services will be there. Because we noticed not only in the case of a GST, but also in the service tax, that there were large scale omissions when the GST was not, service tax was not paid under RCM. A, we are not aware whether we have to pay under RCM. B, when to pay under RCM. C, when to claim, how to pay under RCM. And D, when you are eligible to claim the ITC of the RCM. These are the many questions. So I explain on which activity you have to pay RCM, when to pay under RCM, how to pay under RCM, and when to claim ITC of RCM. These are the 4 very, very important questions one has to learn. And the crux of that I am discussing here with you. On which activity RCM is applicable, we discussed. When to pay, we are discussing for goods and service. How to pay, you have to pay in cash. Cash ledger, say only through cash ledger you can pay. And ITC, when you can claim the ITC, I mentioned you that once you paid, the next month you can claim the ITC of the same. Now, my dear friend, in case of a voucher. So again, it is a supply of vouchers is there. And the voucher related to the services. So when you have to pay the tax, the same principle will apply. If the supply is identifiable, meaning thereby you can purchase, I'm selling the voucher of 1,000 rupees for 800, and you can go only with the restaurant, which is a service, and the restaurant attract the GST at the rate of 5%, meaning thereby, if you are selling this voucher on the, say for example, on the 15th of June, the liability will be on the 15th of June. But in case in all other cases, meaning thereby the supply is not identifiable, this 800 rupees voucher can be used for anything. In that case, if the voucher is used on the 1st of January 2023, it was sold on 15th of June. In that case, the liability to pay the tax will be the time of supply will be the 1st of July, 1st of June, January 2023, when this voucher was redeemed. And at the rate, whichever you are using this voucher, say for example, you use this voucher for restaurant 5%. But if you use this voucher, say for example, paying the rent, then it will be 18% GST.